So can you hear me very clearly?
Yes, sir.
I'm also sorry for being a little late. We were spending some time talking to your director, Sri Ravi Chandran, a man of great wisdom, and we were discussing about the need for spiritual education and modern education, along with modern education. So our topic today is the need for spirituality. I was just told that yesterday you have a convocation, and most of the students have gone on vacation, and only a small group is here. So we are very happy to be here. So our topic is the need for spirituality in society. Now, we have limited time, so we're not going to discuss in great detail. But we all know that society today is in a very precarious condition. For example, we know that people's character is collapsing. We know the stress levels are so high. Over 60% of the executives and big companies suffer from stress. And we also know how people's character is declining, morality standards are declining, etc. What is the real cause? The real cause is lack of spiritual understanding and spiritual education. So I would like to start by reading a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita actually is a book of knowledge. Some people may think it's a sectarian book, but it's not a sectarian book. It's a book of knowledge, and it is the oldest source of knowledge on this planet. 5,000 years ago, this philosophy was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. But in the 4th chapter, Krishna gives a history of the Bhagavad Gita, where he explains that this knowledge was first imparted to the sun god millions of years ago. So Bhagavad Gita essentially is a book of knowledge, and it is being read by scholars and schools all over the world. So I'd like to read a verse from the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it's 3rd chapter, text 21. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Would you like to repeat after me the translation? I skipped the Sanskrit, but I knew you won't be able to follow me. But the English will be easier to follow. If you want, you can repeat after me. Whatever action a great man performs,
Whatever great action man performs,
common men follow.
common man follows.
And whatever standards he sets,
Whatever standard he sets,
by exemplary acts,
by exemplary acts,
all the world pursues.
all the world pursues.
Now I would like to read briefly explanation of this verse by H.H.Gopal Krishna Goswami Prabhupada, who was one of the foremost scholars on Vedic literature. Bhaktivinoda Swami translated nearly 100 books, which have been further translated in over 74 international languages of the world. His books are available now in Chinese, Russian, German, Japanese, name it, and it's there in that language. And people are reading it. Why? Because they find it's giving them very valuable guidance as to how they can lead a peaceful life. So this is the explanation. People in general always require a leader who can teach the public by practical behavior. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself smokes. Lord Chaitanya said that the teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. So, whatever action great men do, others will follow. All of you sitting here are the future leaders of the country. The youth of today is going to be the leader of tomorrow. And it is important that you also understand the importance of spiritual knowledge or the philosophical knowledge for our betterment. So today we see that the leaders lack character, morality, honesty, and as a result, the population follows. We often complain. If you read the newspapers, you will see some scandal or the other is always getting exposed. We often complain our leaders are immoral, they are corrupt, and we read about the whole controversy about rape and so on. And we search for answers to all these questions. But the real problem is lack of spiritual understanding, lack of thorough education. The education that we get in schools and colleges is no doubt important. And we have the privilege of being present here at the Indian Institute of Management Indore branch, which is one of the most prestigious educational institutions in India, training us in management. And how many institutes of management are there in India? 9? 11. I understand there are 11 such branches in different parts of the world, in different parts of India, and this is as prestigious as IITs are. So we learn about management, but we should also learn about the philosophy of life, so then we can utilize our management skills better. So it is very important that this knowledge be understood from a young age. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that this knowledge is the king of education. In other words, material knowledge is great, but if it is accompanied by a proper understanding of the self, then the knowledge becomes more meaningful. Once, Bhaktivedanta Swami, who translated the Bhagavad Gita, was addressing American students at a very prestigious institute known as the MIT. I think all of you must have heard of the MIT. So it was a learned audience, and Swamiji asked a question to the audience. He said, in this great university of the United States of America, is there any branch that tells you what happens after death? And there was complete silence. So, material knowledge becomes meaningful, material knowledge is better utilized, material knowledge benefits us fully if we also have spiritual knowledge. Therefore, the subject of our talk today is the need for spirituality in society. Spirituality has to be something based on philosophy spoken by the Supreme Lord. It is said that material knowledge coming from any source is subject to certain defects. Like we all have a tendency to cheat, for example. Our senses are imperfect. If we were to turn the lights off in this room, we wouldn't be able to see each other. Our eyesight is so weak that we can't even see our own eyelids that are right next to the eyeball. Is that right? Then we have a tendency to make mistakes. We get illusions. Whereas the philosophy presented by Vyasadeva in the Vedas does not suffer from these defects. So, the advice that we have is that along with material knowledge, one should also cultivate spiritual knowledge side by side. And this is being recognized all over the world. All over the world, educationists are recognizing, realizing that material education by itself cannot build people's character, cannot give them a path of real happiness. We are all looking for happiness, am I right? All of you have enrolled in this prestigious institute. You have enrolled why? You want to get good knowledge about management. Also because you know that a degree from an educational institution like this will help you in your professional career. So we are all looking for happiness. So the question is, how can we find real happiness? So Bhagavad Gita, as we said earlier, is essentially a book of knowledge. A book of knowledge that educates us in various ways. For example, one aspect of education that we receive from the Bhagavad Gita is that there's a God in control. And God is known by different names in different parts of the world. We can't deny that there's a God in control who is the cause of all causes and the source of everything. And the Bhagavad Gita identifies Krishna as the Supreme Lord. But the real important point is the God in control who is the cause of all causes. Then, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we are given education on the nature of the soul. In this body, there is something. And when that something leaves the body is pronounced dead. In the late 60s, there was a very famous heart surgeon called Dr. Bigelow. He was in the Toronto General Hospital. And he had seen people die for 32 years. And there was a great topic of discussion in the medical circles as to at what point should a patient be allowed to die. Because now you have many artificial devices by which you can keep a person artificially alive for some time. But they cost a lot of money, which the companies, insurance companies don't want to pay. So this Dr. Bigelow had seen people die for 32 years. And he said, after seeing people die and the sudden change in the lust and complexion of the person when he dies, I am convinced that there is something in the body, and when that something leaves the body is pronounced dead. See, at that time, I was a student at Medical University in Montreal, and we saw this very nice article. So we sent it to Swami Prabhupada to correspond with this doctor. And in the end, the doctor established, he admitted, that the knowledge that the Vedas have to offer is far ahead of anything that material science will ever discover. In other words, the doctor wanted to search out what is that something in the body which leaves the body, then the body is pronounced dead. That is the soul. So in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna discusses this very important topic, the topic of the soul. And Krishna explains, for the soul, there is never birth nor death, not having once lived, does he ever cease to be. And the Vedas are so precise, they even tell us what is the measurement, 1/10,000, the tip of your head. The Bhagavad Gita gives us an example. It says that just like we discard our old clothes and wear new clothes, the soul leaves one body and then takes on another body. And almost all the scriptures confirm this point, that there is a soul in the body that is eternal. In the Bible, for example, it is said, what shall I do if I gain the whole world but suffer the loss of your eternal soul? So this point is explained in great detail in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just summarizing it. This is a very important aspect of knowledge, and we need to know who we are. When you travel abroad, the first thing you want to know is who you are. That's why you have to present your passport. So similarly, we need to know what is our real identity. This body that we have, it covers the soul, like the clothes you wear cover the body. This body goes through 6 stages of transformation. It takes birth, it grows, it maintains itself, produces byproducts, then deteriorates, and finally vanishes. Whether you are a millionaire or a pauper, whether you're a male or a female, whether you're an Indian or an American, everyone's body goes through these 6 stages of transformation. And what is death? Death is unavoidable. That's why in the English language we say, as sure as death. But that is nothing but a change of dress. And whatever dress you get, that is determined by the type of action we perform. In the Bible there's a nice saying, as you sow you shall reap. And based on the teaching of the Vedas, which says, based on our actions, our future gets determined. So that's another aspect of knowledge that is an essential ingredient of spirituality. Then, the Bhagavad Gita also explains material nature is emanating from the Supreme Lord. All of you are students of management. And in management, one of the essential things is you learn how to optimize whatever time, resources, etc. you have. Optimize the use in such a way that you get maximum benefit. So these resources that are there are all provided by God. For example, oil, water, whichever ingredients are there, they're all coming from home, from the Supreme Lord. There's a nice statement in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, this material nature is working in my direction. So, this material nature is emanating from the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord is the provider of everything. As you know, the world is gradually running out of natural resources, am I right? The world is running out of water. They're running out of gas. That's why you pay more and more for food now. Why? Because the food supply all over the world is shrinking. And why is that? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives you the perfect economic solution. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that food grains come from rainfall. Rainfall comes from sacrifice. Sacrifice means following the laws of God. So today we see that sinful activities have increased tremendously. We're not really following the laws of God. And as a result we see so much disorder in society. So, this material nature is emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is an important point to understand. So Bhagavad Gita explains these points to help us lead a better life. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, lust, anger and greed are three highways that lead to hell. Now, we mentioned earlier how we're getting more and more stressed out. We mentioned how we're getting more and more depressed. And when do people get depressed? Anyone would like to offer an answer? They get depressed when they can't get what they want, am I right? As long as they can get what they want, you don't feel depressed. And what is the nature of society today? We have unlimited demands, unlimited desires, unlimited wishes. And when you can't get those, then we become depressed. The spiritual philosophy is simple living and high thinking. If you live simply, you will be, and think high. Thinking high means also understanding what is the goal of life. So what we're trying to teach people all over the world is the need to cultivate spiritual knowledge also. Lust, anger, and greed are the paths that take us to hell. And in material life we see that we have unlimited desires, unlimited longings, unlimited wishes. And what does advertising do? What does advertising do? Who knows? Increases your appetite, isn't it? You see a nice product being advertised, and they'll promote it in such a way that you wish you can get it. And you want to get it at any cost. So, and when you can't get it, then we get depressed. So this is the result. Lust, anger, and greed are the three paths that take you to hell. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the mind, intelligence, and senses are the sitting place of this enemy. So, spirituality means understanding the teachings of the Lord. Spirituality means accepting the teachings in a bona fide text. We have many bona fide texts. We are just quoting from the Bhagavad Gita, but these other texts can also be referred to, which give us words of wisdom. We must understand that human life is something very, very rare. Human life is achieved after a long evolutionary struggle. And human life should be used to develop higher character, higher moral standards, and that can only be attained if we also cultivate spiritual knowledge. So the Bhagavad Gita very systematically takes us from ignorance to light. Just like as long as you have light, you can see things clearly. Similarly, if you have spiritual knowledge, you can see things in the right perspective. These days we're always complaining. This man is greedy. This man is exploiting me. And the world of the cheaters and the cheated. And why is all this? Due to lack of spiritual understanding. People think, let me amass as much as I can. But they have no understanding that the nature of the soul is eternal and this body is perishable. Krishna explains that there are two principal characteristics of material existence. One is the kalayam, the other is the shashvatam. The kalayam means there's nothing but misery. Shashvatam means everything is temporary. Now sometimes when you talk like this, people say, well, you're being too pessimistic. Now if we analyze human life, we'll see, doesn't matter how rich you are, how influential you are, none of us can escape the sevenfold miseries of life. Does anyone know what the sevenfold miseries of life are? One is birth. The child comes from mother's womb crying. It doesn't matter how good a hospital you may be in, the child comes out crying. In the third canto of Bhagavatam it is explained the experience of the child in the womb of the mother. Then there is disease. There is no doubt that modern science has made a lot of progress. But does that mean that the diseases have been conquered? There are today more diseases than ever before. The doctors today are busier than ever before. The pharmaceutical companies are selling more medicine than ever before. The hospitals today are fuller than ever before. Why? Because people are getting more and more disease. It doesn't matter what research you do, you can't stop disease. Then there's old age. We don't like old age, isn't it? Does anyone like old age? Does anyone like old age? No. If we had a choice and some insurance company offered you, buy my policy and you won't become old, everyone would buy it. But old age is unavoidable. Now they have what they call these anti-aging shops in the Western countries, where they sell you all the paraphernalia to avoid the appearance of old age. But even if you do that, you do all the makeup, etc., how long can you avoid the appearance of old age? And then there is death. Nobody likes death, but death is unavoidable and inevitable, isn't it? And it doesn't matter. You may be a powerful general, a rich businessman, you can't stop death. And what's the nature of death? It can come at any time. Just like a good student who likes to be prepared for the exams all the time, the scriptures advise us that we should be prepared for death by always cultivating the right knowledge. In addition to all this, the three other types of miseries. Misery is caused by the mind. The mind presents so many miseries. How? Something happens to a close relative or friend, the mind troubles us. You see a nice product being promoted, and you don't have the money to buy, the mind troubles you. The mind troubles us in various ways. Then there is, you don't get the honor you think you deserve, the mind troubles you. Then there are other living entities troubling us. You have other entities troubling us in various ways. Even the mosquitoes trouble you. And then there's material nature. Material nature troubles us in various ways. How does material nature strike? It strikes through the medium of earthquakes, floods, natural disasters. If you look at the recent natural disasters, there was an American historian who wrote a nice book listing all the major natural disasters of the last 30 years. And he showed that how the frequency of these natural disturbances is a lot sharper than they were before. Before you would get a big disaster, more than 30, 40 years. Now we're getting it almost every second year, third year in some part of the world. So the scriptures explain that material life means a life of misery, and if we do see some happiness, it is very short-lived. It is very short-term. And at any time, the end can come. So what do? Someone may say, okay, you painted a very negative picture, and this is hard to believe. What do you want us to do? The scriptures give us a solution. They encourage us to practice a process of meditation. They encourage us to follow the teachings of the Lord, as explained by the great sages. For example, there is an ancient process known as the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Now, Lord incarnates in His holy names. And what happens by chanting the holy names of the Lord? By chanting the holy names of the Lord, you can experience real happiness. In the material world, doesn't matter how hard you endeavor, the happiness you get is going to be short-term. Is that true or false? Let's say if you become a business tycoon, how long will it last? So many business millionaires have come and gone. So, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, the heart gets cleansed of the unlimited material desires that cause us depression and nervous breakdown, stress. This can all be controlled by this process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. Then we also encourage people to cultivate spiritual knowledge by reading this ancient book of knowledge known as the Bhagavad Gita, etc. By reading this book, you get knowledge. There is material knowledge and there is absolute knowledge. Relative knowledge changes with the passage of time, but knowledge coming from the Supreme doesn't change. So this knowledge should also be cultivated from a young age. And just like in today's environment, from a young age, we give children computer education, am I right? We give them computer education. Why? Because we realize the value of computer education. I know from the age of 2, children are getting computer education. So similarly, a great sage, Prahlad Maharaj said, we should try to cultivate this knowledge, spiritual knowledge, from the age of 5 onward. Now someone may think that living in the modern age, Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic texts have no relevance. A lot of people do think that these are all outdated, this is mythology, this is imagination. It's not imagination. People all over the world today are reading the Bhagavad Gita. People all over the world today are leading their lives based on the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita is giving them knowledge. Bhagavad Gita is giving them a peaceful process. I was once flying from New York to Moscow on an aeroport flight, and the person next to me was a Russian professor who was not at all connected in any way, direct or indirect, with the Hare Krishna movement. So as we started flying, he told me he's a professor of philosophy. And he told me that I teach my students Bhagavad Gita. So when I heard Bhagavad Gita, I was surprised. So I said, why do you teach them Bhagavad Gita? He said it answers all your questions. It has an answer to every question that one may possibly have. And it gives us a path how to lead a peaceful life. So please do not think that if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it will in any way signify that you're backward. No. Bhagavad Gita essentially is a book of knowledge. And unless we also cultivate spiritual knowledge, along with material knowledge, we will not be able to lead a happy, peaceful life. And as we can see, mature science is no doubt making progress. It's just amazing what science has been able to achieve. You have these small discs that can have so much information. But the progress of science has not in any way reduced tensions in society, have they? Our spiritual master was once in America, and he was addressing a press conference. At that time, in the late 60s, America was the world capital, and India was really poor. So one American journalist said, Swamiji, you've come from India, a land of poverty. What are you going to teach us? We are the richest country in the world. We have everything. So Swamiji said, one thing is common. Both your rich country and my poor country. So the journalist was very curious. What is that something that's common to both America and India? And Swamiji said, the death rate is 100% in both countries. And then he was stunned. So the point is, it doesn't matter how much mature facility you have, the death rate is 100%. And the intelligent person is one who tries to investigate how can I get out of the samsara of birth and death? How can I find a real solution? And that is attainable by practicing this process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. So this is our request. We want to leave some time open for questions. And please look into this philosophy. Look into the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Try the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. This process of chanting the holy names of the Lord is nothing new. It's not a new creation. It's been going on since time immemorial. And by chanting the holy names of the Lord, the heart gets cleansed and you realize unending spiritual happiness. And you don't have to pay to get this happiness. In true life, if you want some happiness, you have to pay, isn't it? You want to go to a hotel, you want to go on a holiday, it all costs money. But this doesn't cost any money. All you have to do is spend some time. We chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Mantra means a chant that can give you peace of mind. If I was to ask you, do you want peace of mind? How many of you would like to have peace of mind? Can I ask another frank question? How many of you feel that you currently have peace of mind? I must say, all of you are honest Brahmanas. A Brahmana is one who speaks the truth. So I asked you, how many of you feel you really have peace of mind? None of you lifted your hand, which is a true story. We don't have peace of mind. We don't have peace of mind because of deep identification with the body, deep identification with unlimited desires, deep with unlimited material goals. We don't have happiness. We often think, if only I could fulfill this next wish, then all my wishes will be satisfied. But when you get that, then you wish for something else, am I right? So we keep aiming and wishing more and more. But actually, it doesn't matter how much you get, you won't be happy. Just like it is said, a fish cannot be happy out of water. You can place a fish on a golden plate, the fish will not be happy. But if you place the fish in water, it will be happy. So similarly, our constitutional position is to be engaged in service to the Lord. You may worship Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, Krishna Dev. That's not the issue. The important issue is to establish a relationship with the Lord. And unless we try to establish that relationship with the Lord, one will never be happy. We can see that we can get unlimited desires, we can get unlimited facilities of sense enjoyment, still we will not be happy. In the scripture, there are stories of so many people who had unlimited facilities of sense enjoyment, but still they were not happy. Whereas, if we take to the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, you take to the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord, then you'll be peaceful in every situation. In the material world, honor and dishonor, both will be there. One day you're honored, the other day you're dishonored. One day you're victorious, the other day you're defeated. This is unavoidable. But you can become a dhira, a person of steady mind, if you engage in the process of chanting the holy name. So this is the only earnest request. We have limited time today, so I'd like to leave some time to ask questions. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So if you have any question, then you can ask.
I was told it's 1 hour for the whole package, so any questions we can answer? Yes. Any questions? Yes.
Swamiji, I am a teacher here.
Yes,
I teach organizational behavior. My name is Pawan Singh.
Organizational behavior.
Yes. So I have a question. This question relates to verse number 4, chapter 9.
On the Bhagavad Gita.
And verse number 5, chapter 9. Now, question is like this. Verse 4 says of chapter 9, Matasthani sarva bhutani. Entire creation abides in me. And suddenly this shloka 5 says, Nacha matasthani bhutani, that no creature abides in me. So I find a kind of anomaly. But since Bhagavad Gita is without any anomaly, I would like you to kindly reconcile these two apparently anomalous statements.
Well, what Krishna is saying, that all beings are in me. God is the source of everything. So all things are in me. I'm reading, by me in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. So, can I read out to you what Prabhupada explains? So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not perceivable through the material senses. So, Krishna is saying, all beings are in me, but I'm not in them. Everything is created by the Supreme Lord. And Krishna in the next verse is saying that I am the maintainer of all living entities and I'm all pervasive, I'm all everywhere. And I'm a part of this cosmic manifestation. So I don't see any contradiction here because Krishna establishes that I'm the very source of creation. Maybe if you wish to, after the class we can discuss it at the end of the plan. Because I don't see any contradiction.
Contradiction is clear. I think to my mind is highly limited.
Maybe we can talk after the lecture then.
Yes, because my contradiction was connected to a verse which says very clearly.
Okay, so maybe what we could do.
That is matasthani sarva bhutani. And again it says, nacha matasthani bhutani.
So what we could do after the discussion,
Yes, sir.
we could sit down. Any more questions? I'm very glad that you're reading the Bhagavad Gita regularly. Are you reading the Gita regularly?
You'll be happy to know that I take special classes here
On the Bhagavad Gita?
on behavioral insights from Sanskrit scriptures, and that includes Bhagavad Gita also.
You'll be pleased to know I was just talking to your director. I was starting a Bhagavad Gita course here. And he was quite favorable to the idea. We've started it in Bits Pilani, and we started it at Kurukshetra University, and we're starting it in many universities now, Bhagavad Gita courses. Any more questions? No questions?
Students? Yeah. Any questions from your side? Yes.
Yeah. Any practical questions? Yeah. Because sometimes they say, oh, Bhagavad Gita is too theoretical. But it's not theoretical, it's practical. Yeah.
Swamiji, whenever we talk of spirituality, we talk about the connection with God. But how about a person who is maybe an atheist or an agnostic who doesn't believe in God? So can there be spirituality for a person who doesn't believe in God?
It's unfortunate that we don't believe in God. Because we can clearly see that unless there's someone's hand behind it, the creation would not have taken place. The sun rises every day at the right time, isn't it? And there must be someone controlling it. So, atheists also, if they're fortunate enough to get association of devotees, they change. And if somebody persists in wanting to continue to be a atheist, what can you do? It's unfortunate. Doesn't matter, you may belong to any faith, but you can't deny there is a God in control. You can't deny there is a director, a supreme director of the whole show. And that God is the source of everything. We can call God by different names in different parts of the world, but you can't deny there's a God in control. Ask an atheist, what causes the sun to rise? How do the earth produce grains? I mean, look at your own body. It's such a sophisticated machine. Isn't it somebody who created all this? Someone will say, no, it's happened by chance. But nothing happens by chance, we know that. Yes?
Swami, good evening. What is the path to happiness, and is there any person in this world who is happy?
Very good question. The first part was, what's the path to happiness? Am I right? Yes, what we have presented today, or what we have tried to present today, is the path to happiness. We may say, well, I'm very happy going to the discotheques and chanting and going to the clubs. That is flickering happiness. So if you want real happiness, the best is to connect yourself to God. And is there, the next question, is anyone really happy? Am I right? I can introduce you to thousands of you who are very happy because, along with material education, they're cultivating spiritual education side by side. We have over 30,000 youth in India, people like you, who study in different education institutions, and are outstanding students. Many of our students have broken records in education all over the world. And they're studying, at the same time practicing spirituality. In fact, I can tell you all, the students who practice spirituality end up getting the best grades. You know why? They give up bad habits. They're in good association. Their way of thinking is a lot more clearer. They're not confused. And they study, and at the same time practice spirituality. Actually, in almost all the educational institutions in India, we have regular courses on Bhagavad Gita now. And thousands of students are taking to it because it's a book of knowledge. Any more questions?
Swamiji, if you permit me one more question, and that relates to young students. in verse number 67 of second chapter, it is, 18th chapter, it is said that Bhagavad Gita should not be shared with those who are not interested. The question is, when I got Ramcharitmanas at the age of 15, I started reading it, then and there. But when I got Bhagavad Gita at the age of 15, I postponed it for next 10 years, because in the beginning it is not attractive. So young minds not get attracted to it in the beginning. So this is the challenge of bringing Bhagavad Gita to young minds.
You see, on the one hand, Krishna explains, and I'll read the translation to you. This confidential knowledge will never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted, engaged in devotional service, nor to those who are envious of me. This confidential knowledge. But the nature of a devotee is, he's very compassionate. And he goes to explain. And Lord Chaitanya, who is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, he specifically stressed the importance of going house to house and preaching the message of Godhead. And there are many people who are envious of the Lord, but by spiritual association were transformed. Just like before coming to this audience, I can't ask, okay, how many of you are envious of Krishna? And if someone raises his hand, I say, okay, you can't sit in the lecture. So naturally, we have to, devotees of the Lord are very compassionate. But if someone persists in defying, challenging, then we may not. But initially, a devotee, out of his compassionate nature, preaches to everyone. I'm very glad you're reading the Bhagavad Gita very thoroughly. Yes.
There was a popular comment that I came across recently. It goes like this. It is impossible to find someone who does not believe in God totally, and it's not possible to find someone who's totally devoted to Him either. What shall be your take on this?
I would disagree with that statement. Because I know a lot of people who believe without God life is useless. And these are youngsters of your age, your educational background, etc. In fact, I would say that more and more people are turning to God now. For example, the recession that took place in Europe. Before the recession, the percentage of people going to churches in Europe, in England it's only about 5%. But as a result of the recession, the churches in Europe are more full than ever before. The churches in America are more full than ever before. So people attribute this high attendance to recession. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, people come to me due to 4 factors. 1, somebody who wants wealth. 2nd, somebody in distress. 3rd, someone inquisitive. 4th, the genuine seeker of knowledge. He says all 4 are to be considered pious, because at least they're coming to me. And even if you come to God with motivation, Krishna is so purifying, you begin to get purified. So, I do believe, based on my travels and encounters with people all over the world, that there are more and more people turning to God. Of course, they may not fully follow everything, but they acknowledge that there is God, and the percentage of atheists is going down. Okay? Any other questions? So I want to thank all of you. I understand that all of you are students of Professor Naik.
So thank you, Swamiji. So the words that you have given before us, it would really be helpful in navigating us in the pursuit of knowledge, and it will enable us to get the right knowledge per se, and it would also take a long way on the path of spirituality.
Right. How
Thank
many
you so much
how
once
many of
again.
you have a copy of this Bhagavad Gita? You do? You know, this Bhagavad Gita is available in every Indian language in over 74 international languages. So, how many of you don't have a copy but would like to have a copy? So what we will do, we will arrange to, through your professor,
We have in our office, so we can take it.
oh, so you have in the professor's office, sir's office, you just have to walk up there and take it.
In fact, we are starting the course for them. Levels of university.
Oh,
These students will take it.
the professor who is coming is one of the top professors of IIT Kanpur. And he's coming to teach a course on Bhagavad Gita. How long is he coming for?
That is for 15 sessions.